This year marks the 11th anniversary of the Investors in the Environment Awards. Based on the success of last year's virtual event brought on by the pandemic, we're delighted actually to have brought you this whole range of expert speakers that have happened across the week, the webinars that we've run, with the aim of upskilling you and your team around this year's theme of a greener future. The aim of this series is to really inspire, influence, and share best practice, which is about all we do with investors in the environment, helping you to understand why we need to act, and then share some ideas on what has worked well for others on this journey. The program will finish today with this event, the iiE Awards, final presentation, and keynote. When we planned our first ever virtual awards last year, we were living in a new normal where environmentalists and practitioners like myself worried that COVID would put a halt to the widespread interest that sustainability was just starting to enjoy, and potentially, stop doing all those fantastic sustainability things that had just begun to happen. But despite our early concerns, action on sustainability has only grown at pace. But there is so much more work to do. Investors in the Environment is the catalyst for sustainability within our organizations. Our members use our framework, our tools, and our guidance to start to understand their environmental impacts, how they can improve on their carbon emissions, prevent environmental harm, and get people involved and engaged in the process through projects and awareness. We believe that changing working practices to incorporate environmental decisions and social decisions as well into the very heart of organizations is vital to building resilience and creating strong, sustainable businesses. Today's event is being recorded and will be shared afterwards on the iiE website. So I'll start off by introducing myself and our keynote speaker, followed by her talk on future green business trends to give you a bit of inspiration. Then we'll have a Q&A session where you can directly ask and hear from Georgina answers to your most pressing questions on going green. We'll then proceed to recognize our accredited members from the past year, recap our winners from the week, and announce our 2 final awards, including our most prestigious overall outstanding achiever for a large organization as well as a small or medium-sized enterprise, and finally, our Sustainability Influencer Award. My name is April Sotomayor. I'm the lead for Investors in the Environment, part of environmental charity PECT. I'm a chartered environmentalist. I support teams on engagement from a practitioner level all the way up to executive leadership, helping to increase organizational understanding of environmental solutions with a focus on sustainable development and environmental management. I'm joined today by Georgina Wilson-Powell. She's the founder and editor at Pebble magazine. Georgina spent 16 years launching and running magazines for the likes of Lonely Planet Traveler, BBC Good Food, Time Out, and many more. She says that after living in Dubai and flying all over the world for work, she couldn't go on carrying around the carbon and plastic waste guilt with her all the time and wanted to live differently, which led Georgina to founding Pebble. Now, Georgina's on a mission to use her career and skills as a force for good to tackle society's overconsumption of just about everything. We can be less wasteful, live greener and more innovative, and support more local and ethical businesses. But often we just need the inspiration and a bit of information to get started. Georgina, do you want to switch on your camera and take over, and I'll finish the introduction if that's okay?
Of course.
So a lot has changed because of COVID. So what stuff should we keep and what do we need to change going forward? What are the best practices? So this is a talk that we've been very much looking forward to since we planned this session earlier this year. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're going to be having a Q&A after Georgina's talk. So if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, do put them in the chat box or in the Q&A box, and we'll be answering these live as well as choosing some to be answered by Georgina after she speaks. Okay, Georgina, you should be able to sort of take control and share your screen.
Sure. Hopefully this works. There we go.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm so thrilled to be joining you today. It's a real honour to be able to deliver the keynote, and good luck to anybody that's up for an award later on. I can't wait to see who is the winners. So I was asked to do a talk around the future green business trends, which is always a little bit daunting because who knows what's really around the corner. But I've based it around a lot of the things that we've seen coming through on Pebble over the last little while, and things that we've seen in consumer trends, and also the way that in which businesses need to change their communications, both externally and internally over the next little while. So it might not be as technical as some of the talks I believe that you've had during the week, but hopefully just as useful. So why am I here? Who am I? I thought I'd start there. So I founded Pebble in 2016. It's a sustainable lifestyle magazine, and we've now expanded into events and a big online community. And basically our overarching mission is to end overconsumption. So we want to shift people from mindless consumption into a more mindful way of being, whether that's supporting local businesses, buying secondhand, buying less, buying better, and all of the various permutations of all of that in every different industry. So we cover everything from food and drink and travel right through to ethical fashion, pioneering tech, architecture, and pretty much anything that you can think of. And we always put the consumer at the heart of everything that we do. So we inspire businesses and consumers to adopt what we call everyday activism and end mindless consumption. And for us, everyday activism can be as small as swapping out a bottle or a cup for something reusable, or changing the way your business runs, in the way that you employ, the way that you speak about sustainable issues, the whole gamut of that. And everything that we do is in a friendly, approachable and positive way. So there's no doom and gloom on Pebble. Everything is about the solutions and innovations that we have available. So as April very kindly introduced me, I'm Georgina. I've been a journalist and editor for about 17 years. I have got a book out called Is It Really Green?, which takes the everyday activism approach to your home, and with about 150 different ways that you can sort of tackle different swaps and alternatives at home. And when I'm not running Pebble, I'm often found in the sea. I live in Margate, and I've taken up sea swimming in the last couple of years. And I no longer fly, so I have a camper van, and I'm often in that having a cup of tea by the beach. So today I wanted to talk about the future green business trends, and I thought I'm going to focus on 5. We've only obviously got a short amount of time together, so there's 5 I thought that we could really dive into. And they are talking about the Green Claims Code, consumer messaging, the rise in green competition, working from home auditing, and climate action culture. And I'm going to go into sort of each of these as we go through. So the Green Claims Code, I'm sure you guys must know that the CMA are introducing all new guidance for sustainable claims as of the 1st of January. And this is going to be prosecutable. So for people that don't follow these new claims, there's going to be quite large fines happening. So it's an absolute sea change in the way that we talk about sustainable products and services, and the way consumers can interact with brands and really start to trust what they're saying. So combating the massive rise in greenwashing, which is a fantastic thing that the CMA is doing. So the CMA has found that as much as 40% of firms' green claims could be misleading. I'm sure I'm not the only one that's bought stuff in the last couple of years only to be disappointed when they look at the small print, or they get the packaging, or actually things don't work the way that they're meant to. So the Green Claims Code is coming in on the 1st of January, and it's going to revolutionise how we talk about business and how we talk about our products and services to our customers. So there are 6 principles of the Green Claims Code, which are very top level, but actually when you dive into them, and I'm going to pick out a couple of smaller points in a second, which I think are going to be incredibly impactful. But it covers everything. And if you're not already starting to get ahead of this, then you've got 3 months basically to make sure that everything up and down your supply chain is going to be a tick against the Green Claims Code. So businesses should be truthful and accurate about their products, services, brands, and activities. All and credentials should be clear and unambiguous for the consumer. Businesses should not hide or omit important information that could prevent a consumer from making an informed decision. Any products compared must be intended for the same purpose or meet the same needs. Businesses should consider the total impact of a product or service from beginning to end, and all claims must be substantiated with robust, credible, and up-to-date evidence. And now that, when you sort of read it as a first glance, you kind of go tick, 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 okay, we can do all that. But when you dive into it, for example, businesses should consider the total impact of a product or service from beginning to end. We're actually now moving to a stage where businesses are going to have to verify those supply chains before we can label something sustainable or plastic free or ethical, which is an incredible shift. So I was diving into the CMA website a couple of weeks ago to try and get on top of this. We've done quite a lot of talks around this in the last few weeks. And for me, some of the most daunting and exciting opportunities lie in the small print. So on the CMA website, it says where general claims, eco-friendly, green or sustainable, for example, are being made, the claim reflects the whole life cycle of the brand, product, business or service and must be justified by the evidence. Now, this is an incredible shift from being able to label something green or slap a recycling logo on it or recyclable logo on it. Having to actually justify and show transparency for the way that things are made, manufactured, or the way your business runs, and produce all of that evidence is going to produce a huge change in the way that we talk to our consumers. And actually, it's a lot of work for brands that aren't already doing this. So if you already can say, hand on heart, this is everything that you do, then the time is now to start shouting about it and getting ahead of it. So with the general claims about the whole life cycle, you'll need to prove everything about your offering, even if you've brought it in, even if you're a third-party supplier. There's also more detail on the website about durability and disposability information. Now, all of this needs to now be clearly labelled and explained. So the claim cannot miss or hide information about the environmental impact, so people need to make informed choices. And general features of a product can't be labelled as green if they exist already. So if something is metal by design, it can't be labelled plastic free. Again, which is going to stop a lot of greenwashing. So what does this mean for everybody? Well, apart from making sure we've audited all of our existing consumer and B2B comms to ensure all of the phrases like zero waste or sustainable can be verified or explained, we're also going to have to dive into the detail of everything. So if a product is sustainably made from recycled plastic, but actually only 10% of that plastic is recycled, that has to be disclosed and made very clear. And once you read and dive into the code, you'll realize that it calls for a lot more information and more than you can often get on the side of a packet or a box. So how are you going to direct people clearly to all of that information and not fall foul of this new code? Well, the CMA is suggesting that everybody starts to use QR codes, which have obviously come to the fore over the last 18 months through the pandemic. And basically the QR code should link with one click to a website page with all of this evidence and information on. So again, it's going to change how products are designed, how the packaging looks. I think there's a lot of detail that people perhaps aren't quite realizing needs to change. But in embracing the new code, it's definitely time to be more truthful, more accurate and transparent as possible. Otherwise, we're just pushing issues further down the line for a later date. And as I said, there can be hefty fines associated with breaking the new rules. And for a lot of older or larger companies, making this change is going to be slow and it isn't going to be an easy or comfortable practice. But modern consumers definitely want all of this information. And that's something we see a lot at Pebble. We get a lot of pushback if people have read about brands that, the packaging isn't up to scratch, if the claims aren't clear, if the terms are confusing, the biodegradable and compostable, it seems to be the latest greenwashing craze, for example. So hopefully this is going to start weeding out a lot of that less transparent language. And actually, it's going to flag up a lot of points of difference. So this is an area where you can really start to make all of your green claims and your green credentials shine. And this kind of takes me to the second trend. So changing your messaging. It's not enough nowadays to hide away your sustainability credentials or your policies on a sort of dusty website page at the bottom of the homepage and hope maybe that someone clicks on it. Your sustainability messaging in 2022 needs to be front and center, and it has to be something you're proud of and want to share. Consumers want real, authentic communication nowadays from the brands and services, and they want to be taken on a journey with you. So whether that's your move to being carbon positive, whether you're trying to get to net zero, however you want to frame it, you need to be able to explain to people what you're doing, where you are, and crucially, where you want to get to. And actually having an honest and authentic conversation with your clients or with your consumers is something people are going to value. So it's time to be realistic in what you're going to achieve this year and next year and get their buy-in on your progress. No one's expecting you to be 100% sustainable or 100% perfect, but there's a lot of goodwill in the market for your existing clients and future clients who want to support you and your journey moving over to being as green as you possibly can. And obviously people in the iiE awards are leading that change, but how much are you communicating it to your clients and to your consumers? A lot of this that's been done over the last few decades has been done sort of in back rooms with green teams, and it's all been internal, and actually not a lot of it's communicated out. And actually the more challenger brands, the newer brands that are coming up, put their journey and their transparency absolutely front and center on their website and talk about it on their socials from a very personal point of view. And I think for slightly older companies, this can be a complete mindset change, but it's one that's definitely going to drive new consumers, new clients to you. So in line with talking about your journey, it's time to celebrate what goes right publicly. So all of the small wins start talking about. And crucially, also don't hide away what hasn't worked. So we've just worked with a big FMCG brand on Pebble. They ran a big focus group campaign with us in our community, which is an online community. They sent out product samples to people. They hosted lunch and learn sessions and keynote talks. And actually what was refreshing about them and what drove a lot of engagement is they weren't trying to pretend that everything was perfect. They came along and admitted that actually some of the product samples hadn't worked because they'd been stored too long in a warehouse, or actually the formulation they were trying wasn't up to scratch. And it made people want to engage with them more. It made the consumers that we were working with feel like they had an active role in shaping those products and helping this brand move away from single-use plastic. So take people on that journey. It really doesn't hurt anymore. And I think with the new CMA guidance, it gives those companies who've been truly sustainable and maybe you've ticked all of the boxes, this is really your time to shine. So maybe you've got incredible credentials. Do your consumers understand what they mean? Do your clients understand what they mean? Do they understand that how hard it has been to get these credentials? Are you the only company that does this? And where do you want to go next? How are you going to get to that crucial net zero point? All of these can be massive points of difference for you. They can be wins, they can be ways to talk to your consumers and clients, and they all need to be explored. Again, it's not enough just to put a logo on your homepage and hope to God that somebody knows what it means. Many brands and many people haven't wanted to communicate these things in the past, perhaps because they haven't been 100% perfect, or they're not as good as a competitor, whatever the reason, but that really has changed, and consumers want to see what you're doing and have it explained to them about everything that you've built, you've worked for and you've built in so far. So consumers now are interested in the climate impact of products. They want to know about supply chains. They want to know about financing. Packaging is something that we, as I said, get endless comments and emails and DMs about. People are really diving into the weeds of how their products and their favorite brands are made and how they're manufacturing. So if you're making changes, talk about it. If you've been doing something for a while, shout about it. This is the time to use your social and email marketing channels and keep shouting about it. So while you're not talking about it, your competitors are, or newer challenging brands definitely are. So you want it to shine. And also, can you make your sustainability messaging? Can you make it a lens through which you talk about all the other things that you're doing? So instead of sharing that you've grown perhaps 10% in revenue or your profit margins have grown, how can you frame it so that that same metric has allowed you to impact the world? So instead of 10% growth, can you equate it to how many extra trees you've planted, or how much money has been donated, or how much impact a green team at work has had on the company? So make your impact the primary narrative of what you're talking about, not your own growth. When we talk about marketing, it often relies about putting the client first. So how can you help them? What problem can you solve? But now that client has a friend, and that's the planet. So talk about the planet as a friend or trusted client. How are you helping it? And how are you putting it first? And make that the center of your marketing. Also remember, like all marketing and social comms, not everybody sees everything you're doing all of the time. I wish it was the case. It would make all of our jobs so much easier. But sending one tweet or sharing one blog post in the modern world is not about what you're doing to get to net zero. Whatever your impact is, isn't going to cut it. You need to have a comprehensive annual sustainability comms strategy, whether that's through paid, whether that's through organic, whether that's a mix. And that really beds in your authority of being a planet-friendly or a purpose-driven brand. So think about the next year, think about the topics you can talk about, think about the ups and downs of where you're going to communicate and what messages you're going to share, rather than putting something out and then forgetting about it. Your sustainability messaging needs to be woven through absolutely everything that you do. And as part of that, the first trend for the CMA and the consumer messaging change kind of bring me on to the third trend, and that is be prepared for more competition. And what I'm talking about specifically is being more prepared for competition in your green space. So as the CMA regulations kick in, as the conscious consumer market grows, every company from a small 3-person outfit to the world's largest consumer goods brands are keen to show off their sustainable credentials and start to invest in real actions and real strategies that make a difference. So instead of the greenwashing and the nods, people are going to be doing the hard work. And actually that's going to eat into points of difference for a lot of eco companies that have been green for a long time, that have really flied the flag and been the pioneers in a lot of change. That whole market is about to get a lot more competitive. So perhaps your point of difference, whether you've been carbon audited, whether you're carbon positive, whether you've always planted trees, whether your team's been volunteering for years, that won't be a point of difference for much longer. That will be the norm. And think about how you are going to stand out. If all the companies that you're working with or in your industry, all of your competitors, if they're all doing the same as you, they're all becoming carbon neutral, or they all have really serious plans to be carbon positive, and you can't rely on this as a point of difference anymore, what else in the sustainable space can you do to make yourself stand out? Do you need different USPs? Do you need to look at other areas of your business to make it more attractive or competitive? And as well as the sort of that side of things with the companies, different companies in your competitive sort of space, every company is going to start moving into this space, and partly because, as I mentioned, the conscious consumer market has grown so much. So according to Ethical Consumer, in 2019, which is the sort of last year I could find relevant data for, ethical spending was 98 billion. Now in 1999, that was less than 1 billion. So we've seen incredible growth in the last 20 years. And where we get incredible growth, we're going to get incredible shifts from the world's biggest brands into this space. Conscious consumers are a valuable market to big brands. They spend more per product, they refer products to friends, they act as social influencers, and they invest energy into new brands and products. So their growth and sustainable product growth is outstripping the non-sustainable side of things. So everybody is going to want a piece of this. And that's pretty much the same in every industry and every market. So what are you going to do to start to stay ahead, to make sure those conscious consumers think of you rather than thinking of a new competitor or a bigger brand that's moving into this space? So the first three trends that I've talked about are quite outward looking, talking about, you know, your comms, your competition, talking about the way that you talk to people. My next two trends are actually about internal looking and internal comms, and seeing how you can embrace the new normal and actually start to get to grips with it, because a lot of things are here to stay. Obviously, we had last year, which was chaos and crisis for a lot of people. This year has been, you know, tentatively trying to get back to normal. And I think next year we'll see an embrace of actually the 2019 normal is not coming back, and for some good reasons and some not so good reasons. So how can we get ahead of it, and how can we start to make it work and move ourselves out of this crisis and sort of short-term mode that a lot of us have got stuck in? So I'm sure whatever business you work in, it has changed in the last 2 years. We've moved from an office-based business. We're now completely remote. That's going to stay. You know, I'm sure everybody's staffing needs have changed. Your office needs have changed. And instead of thinking about a short-term, you know, 3 months to 3 months, how can we start to invest in this new structure and actually make it work for everybody? And I think there was a big shift last year, or a big assumption that actually people working from home means there's less carbon emissions. So obviously there was no commute. And in lots of places, this meant that the air quality increased, sometimes as much as 50%. You know, the carbon emissions decreased, but actually that's not the whole story. So for every 100 people who work at home twice a week, we save an estimated 63.5 tons of CO emissions every year. So that's great. That's absolutely brilliant. But if you're measuring carbon and you've done a carbon audit, or you've done any other kind of environmental audit, how does that then stack up if half or all or some of your staff are working at home? How do you measure employees' impact, especially on carbon, if they're working at home or doing flexible working? So while business travel might have gone for good, you've now got people working individually, needing to heat and light individual homes across the UK. And there are 28 million homes in the UK. And the average household in the UK actually emits 2.7 tons of CO2 every year just from heating. Turning the heating up 1 degree means pumping out an extra 350 kilograms of carbon per home. And you've got employees sitting still at tables or desks, living rooms, kitchens, often maybe not so much the energy crisis, we'll have to see, but last year definitely keeping the heating on, keeping the lighting on. So how does that affect your business's carbon footprint? So working from home isn't just immediately a greener option, and I think we need to dive deeper into this and start to do new audits and figure out how we are going to reduce that carbon impact of having everybody dispersed. So can you help your staff insulate their homes? Can you raise awareness or book in training sessions or workshops of what they can do to start to reduce their emissions at home? For instance, something like turning computer equipment off at night can actually take the energy use down 90%. And it's thought that actually 1% of all global carbon emissions are caused by standby mode. So what can you do to help your employees at home reduce their emissions? There's also co-working spaces. If you're moving to a flexible office space model and people are coming in perhaps to an office a couple of times a week, or you've moved to a shared co-working space, how can you measure that impact on the planet? And how can you start to build that into your carbon auditing or your carbon footprint? We've, as I mentioned, Pebble's now a completely remote team, but we've partnered up with X and Y, who are flexible working spaces in London. And one of the reasons we've moved into there, and we go in sort of once a week, is because they're a B Corp and they can deliver a carbon audit to us, and we know exactly what our footprint is while we're there. And I think it's going to be a bigger thing for more and more businesses starting to having to outsource those office situations, and it's going to be a more complex sort of footprint audit, trying to get all that work together. Then there's also some online tools. Obviously, I'm talking to you on Zoom. We have this fantastic virtual awards, and while it works to bring lots of people together, and has been a fantastic resource for the last 18 months, it's not completely without carbon emissions. So data centers will account for around 3% of all carbon emissions by 2025, and actually outstripping some small countries as we embrace digital and virtual working as our norm, and our streaming and data footprint grows ever bigger. So your employees might not be driving to an office, but pushing up their carbon footprint on Zoom or other digital and cloud-based apps and tools. And I was doing some digging into this a couple of days ago, and it's roughly estimated that 1 hour of video conference calls emits up to 1 kilogram of carbon dioxide. So things that we wouldn't have had to think about a couple of years ago, or even bring into our journey of becoming carbon neutral, carbon positive. Now we're starting to have to go back and actually treat our companies almost from a new starting point, because our companies are set up so differently. So I bet that everybody here is working in a completely different way to 2 years ago. So has your audit and your offsetting structure, your giving back structure, have they all caught up? Because now's the time to put that in place and make sure that for next year, as things stay, perhaps as they are, with this flexible half in, half out model, your company's footprint is reliable, and that's driving everything else that you're doing to offset plant trees and everything else. So, oh, sorry, I forgot to move the slides on. There we go, we're on our video call. So my last trend actually sort of builds on that. And while the last trend was all about structure and the sort of company's operations, this one's all about team. And obviously, I'm sure everybody here has a strong team culture, or green teams or volunteering teams. But how can we take that one step beyond? So building a climate action culture for people every day, I think, is super important, especially when your team is dispersed or working remotely and not in the office altogether. So with working from home probably here to stay, the way we invest and operate the team's culture and the social side of our businesses has to change. And I see this being a massive growth area and opportunity for anyone working in these kind of operations, as we move those kind of team building, a bit naff, organized, fun kind of activities that we use to build some of that culture and build social connections with our teams, away from the office. So away from bars and things like paintballing and those kind of cringy activities that everyone secretly hated, towards more mindful and eco pursuits. So thinking about, can you build in mindfulness days or wellness days, as well as the kind of more active litter picking, volunteering, planting trees days? What do you need to do to help build a resilient team that feel like they're taking action and being everyday activists in their lives, both at home and at work? So we need more of these if we're a remote team. We're not seeing people, we're not making those face-to-face connections. And I think they need to be more scheduled in so that people feel like they've got something to work towards. So what I like to call everyday activism, and we talk about a lot, we talk about this a lot at Pebble. So making all of those little changes in your day-to-day routine, whether that's the way that you cook, whether that's driving your car less, whether that's choosing to not buy fast fashion anymore. How can you build that same kind of mentality into your team? And I think we'll realize, or starting to realize, what a positive impact employers, especially of large businesses, can have on large communities of people through their staff and their supply chains, and start engaging with those opportunities to help their staff make changes at home and at work. So I don't think it's enough to change the way that your business operates to look after the planet, but what about helping the people that work in your business and their impact on the planet, and how can you help them? And I don't just mean by buying everybody a reusable coffee cup, although that's quite a nice thing to do. I mean actively helping them through education, inspiring talks, workshops, or other activities you can get involved in. I've done a lot of talks over the last year, virtually going into bids at blue chip companies and doing lunch and learn sessions with people all around. It could be ethical fashion, it could be different types of skincare, things that aren't necessarily related to their immediate jobs, but give them the tools and the inspiration to go home and make change. Because if we all need to move to net zero by 2050, then we need to do everything we can to have the impact on the most amount of people in our surrounding vicinities. No business is a vacuum, no person working for a business exists in a vacuum. So how can we start to have impact inside our own businesses as well as outside? And also it makes for a more attractive business. So obviously hiring is a problem right now for everybody. There just aren't enough people to go around. There's so many vacancies. So how can you make your business more attractive to the people that care about the planet? And this is a really good way of doing it. So according to Reuters, 65% are more likely to work for a company with strong environmental policies, but 63% of employees express the desire to learn more green skills so they can become more valuable at work. So how can you help build those in the time that you have with the people that you have? Can you collaborate with other firms or organizations to bring people together to have more impact, or actually exchange skills or knowledge with other people in your orbit? Can you create internal programs or initiatives that celebrate the eco successes your teams and your employees can have outside of work, rather than just the stuff that you're doing at 9 to 5? Or what goal could you work on together in their own homes that feels some part of something bigger? So for example, doing a shared virtual adventure or marathon. Could you do meat-free Monday pledges at home and get people to share what they're doing? And all of this starts to build that much more holistic way of looking at the impact of the business, but also the impact of your staff inside and outside the business. So in the same way we stopped talking about green issues as something to be tackled once a year on Earth Day, for example, or perhaps every September in media, which is one of the big reasons I started Pebble, we're now seeing them appear every day in every way. And every media site is talking about the environment pretty much now all the time. So taking climate action as a company, for me, shouldn't just be about one day a year where you have a volunteering day where you plant some trees, but it should be woven through all the everyday ways that you work together as a team and actually outside the business as well. And when you're a team at that, you can succeed together and make so much more of an impact. So thinking about how you can be proactive rather than passive about this climate action piece, and how to help people engage so they want to learn, because people generally want to make change. That's the one thing we found with Pebble over the last few years. There is so much goodwill and need and desire to make change. And often it's just a bit of education and inspiration to push people down a path they already want to go down. So how can you help them and do it at scale as an employer? So hopefully that's given you, sorry, I keep forgetting to put the slides on. So hopefully that's given you a real sort of insight into where we're thinking things are going to go next year. And I really love this quote by Greta. Obviously, it came out a couple of years ago, but I think it's really insightful and something that always gives me hope. So the climate crisis has already been solved. We already have all the facts and the solutions. All we have to do is wake up and change. And I think with all of the different trends coming through, we're starting to see that change. So how can we push it further and faster? If you'd like some more information about Pebble, or if you'd like to come and see what we're up to, you can find everything on our website, pebblemag.com. Everything is free, and you can subscribe for our weekly sustainable email, which is full of ideas, products, tips and hacks, and that comes out every Wednesday with a longer opinion piece email on Sunday mornings, which at the moment for the next 6 weeks is all about COP. So we have 26 different columnists talking about their everything from sort of flooding right through to rewilding and all the different angles of COP over the next few weeks. So you can sign up for that on a Sunday morning. We also have, as I mentioned, a massive digital community. So we have a business group inside that community as well, where we're collaborating and introducing different companies to each other. We have power hours and lunch and learn sessions around all sorts of different topics. And we encourage people to shout about what they're doing, share their journeys, share petitions and campaigns, and find ideas for more everyday activism. So again, that's all free, and you can find that through our website on pebble.mn.co. Thanks very much. I hope you've really enjoyed the keynote, and good luck to everybody who is up for an award later.
Lovely. So we're not going to let you get away from us yet, Georgina. We've got some nice questions and comments in the chat and in the Q&A. So thank you so much for that. I think it really resonates, and I think a lot of our members will agree. You touched on a lot of things that we've had in conversation with the support we provide in terms of what we struggle with, what people are unsure about, what to do next, how to integrate, things that you might be doing at home or interested in on a personal level with, what you can be doing at work. So, what you were saying about the lunch and learns, just to inspire people about sort of everyday activism versus sort of what they could do to upskill their actual role in terms of sustainability within the organization. So amazing. So just to recap, you talked about green claims and the importance of being sure that you're being transparent and that you've got robust evidence to back up what you're saying. Certainly accredited members, the things that they've achieved through the accreditation process, that should be quite useful for you as members to lean back on. And you can even go as far as sharing your audit reports and your findings, or at least your executive summary, for example, from the annual audit cycle. The change in messaging also really resonates, that being honest, emphasizing your journey, and making it personal as well, which I think from a business perspective, that's been kind of a hard shift to make, where people feel a little bit uncomfortable talking about things in the sustainability realm, primarily because none of us are perfect. We all live in a world where we drive cars and their flights are being taken, and we heat our homes with fossil fuels, and it's problematic. And so what we have found is that a lot of people feel quite uncomfortable talking about climate change, or feeling like they're preaching to anybody because they don't have, two legs to stand on the topic. But that's really not what this is about, is it?
No, and I think as well, people, it is uncomfortable to, blowing our own trumpet, or talking about what hasn't worked. But actually, the younger generation of businesses, this is second nature to them. They've grown up with social media. They've grown up with sharing what hasn't worked and with flaws, and talking and being honest and being open to a lot of things. And I think for anyone running a slightly older business, it can feel very counterintuitive, but actually it drives new clients, it drives more consumers. People want that now. We're actually look to brands bizarrely for moral guidance, basically, at the moment. We're looking for them to lead the way. We're looking for them for innovation, to really share our ethics. And we use this phrase on Pebble, like, people like to shop their ethics. They want to support brands that talk like them, that have the same passions. So if people don't know what those passions are, how can they align themselves with you? So I think championing the things that your company believes in, what your North Star, what your values are, is going to allow people to connect with you in a much deeper way.
Yeah, and I really liked how you said, it's useful to talk about how hard it might have been to achieve a particular green credential. That I find very meaningful, because it isn't always easy. There are sort of those quick wins, those things that are, that low-hanging fruit that you can pick and enjoy and feel like, oh, that wasn't so bad. But there are some things in terms of sustainability, in terms of net zero, in terms of really understanding and scrutinizing your carbon footprint, for one, and tackling those carbon intensive areas. That's not always an easy journey. But once you've been able to achieve it or make progress on it, talking about the challenges, I think is really important in normalizing the changes that are needed.
Definitely. And I think it's, again, going back to education, a lot of clients, a lot of consumers don't realize the amount of work that this all takes, or perhaps that you can't make a change on your own. Perhaps you don't have the right scale, but perhaps the money just isn't in the business. And actually taking people on that journey of like, okay, we can't do this now, but we want to do it in 6 months' time, or this is our next goal. It helps people believe in you and really cement that you are working as hard as you can to achieve these things. And I think as well, before I started Pebble, I had no clue that, the complexity, for example, of supply chains in fashion, or the fact that, small skincare brands can't get organic status because their suppliers are too small or too varied. I think people want to understand especially where something can't be achieved or it's a far off goal. Like, why is that? And I think it's genuine curiosity a lot of the time. It's not that they want to bring you down. So I think, you know, trying to explain, especially where you have problem areas, it helps get people on side.
Absolutely. Okay, so we do have a few questions I'm going to try to get through here. So Alison has asked, could you speak a bit more about the mindful pursuits that you mentioned for team building?
Sure. Yeah, I was, you know, I think for me, we've got a whole new team this year. We were 6 before the pandemic. It went down to 2, which was rubbish. And now we're 8, possibly we'll be 10 by Christmas. And until last week, my whole team had never met. And I think it's really brought home to me the importance of actually bringing people together in a kind of unstructured work way, but giving them a purpose. And I think people are so frazzled at the moment and trying to cope with so much or burnt out, that actually making any sort of team activities something that's going to be a benefit to them, I think we'll get so much more buy-in from different employees. So things like, you know, meditation workshops or yoga sessions, or even things like going for a walk in a local forest or doing anything outside, you know, wild swimming, any of these kind of more in nature kind of ideas. That's what people want. They want time away from screens, and they want to, you know, they want to come together and build those connections, possibly with team members they don't know. So I think in a way that we can do that, that's kind on the planet and kind on ourselves. It's kind of a win all round. So yeah, hopefully gone are the days of, you know, laser tag or something, and actually just giving people the room to sit still. I did a fantastic retreat with some people last year, and we did a process called a sitting spot. And you just sit in a forest for 20 minutes and listen to the wind and listen to the leaves and listen to everything around you. And actually it was like the highlight of my year, because it was so impactful to sit and do nothing. And I think, you know, we don't value that enough anymore. We're all so busy or jumping from one Zoom to the next. So giving your team time out and time outside in nature, I think is the way forward.
And time together. Yeah, I think that being together and being present is really important. So your slide around working from home clearly hit a nerve with some of ours. Maybe not put quite well, but a lot of people are working from home.
Sorry.
So what are some ideas? Claire has asked, you know, everybody's working from home. What are some ideas that you have in terms of supporting them to work more efficiently, to upgrade their homes? Any practices that you find particularly inspiring or impactful from your experiences?
I've definitely seen people, and I think it's a really good idea to sort of try and limit, I mean, I know we're on Zoom now, but try and limit screen time. So having Zoom-free days, saying to people that they can't have, you know, Zoom calls over after 3 o'clock, or you know, some days perhaps on email days, but actually giving people space to turn the screen off. And it might be that they're still working, perhaps they're working a different way, but not requiring that presenteeism and sort of expecting people to be constantly on, I think is something that we need to put into working from home practices, because we're all still really in crisis mode, and you know, we're seeing a lot of burnout. So if we're going to do this for a long time, we need to sort of regulate how we communicate and how we use Zoom as well. And actually I was speaking to someone yesterday, and they said there've been some studies saying that, you know, Zoom and the way that we virtually now talk to each other with video calls, it's proved to be more tiring on your brain. So that fog that we all get in the afternoons after a lot of virtual talks, that's you know, it's no surprise. So I think trying to give your teams the sort of the room to be off screen, I think is really important.
That permission, interesting. And the co-benefits for carbon wasn't particularly something that I had thought about either, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, so I had this book come out called Is It Really Green in January, and actually it was due a year before. So during the pandemic last year, we were frantically rewriting it because we had a whole section on commuting, for example, which suddenly disappeared overnight. So I was doing a lot of trying to do a lot of research into the impact of everyone working at home, and there wasn't a lot of research comparing it to commuting kind of last year when we had to finish the book. But you know, there's a lot of research around the impact of us all heating our homes, and the UK has a very inefficient housing stock. We know that there's a problem there. We know that our housing and our heating is contributing massively to the UK's greenhouse gas emissions. So, you know, if we're all sitting independently in our homes, then that impact is inflamed. So yeah, helping. I mean, the Energy Saving Trust is an absolutely fantastic resource for all sorts of ideas, lots of low-cost ideas that you could help your staff implement. They also, I think, run courses and workshops, so coming in and talking to people about different home setups and how to reduce heating loss. And also with the energy prices going up this winter, you know, there's that double whammy of saving money as well, which obviously everybody's looking to do.
Yeah. Also, you know, not to be omitted from the equation is the transport, the shift, the heat from heating from transport. So a lot of our member businesses actually do include commuting and commuter mileage within their carbon footprint. So for those that have measured their home working emissions, and I'll get to that because there's a question about that, alongside commuter mileage, for example, from the previous year, that offers a good new baseline and basis to compare how that impact is shifted and sort of what the net gain or benefit or not might be from shifting to a home workforce.
Absolutely. I mean, if you've got the baseline of what was happening in 2019, arguably everybody's business is going to have shifted. So at least you've got that baseline to go on. But yeah, everything needs to be relooked at now with this new setup.
Okay, so some really good things in the chat. I'm just going to do two more if that's okay. So
Sure.
someone has asked, will iiE be issuing guidance or running workshops on how members can account for working from home, taking into consideration the size and complexity of some of the members? So we have done a workshop and a webinar that's already available on calculating your home working emissions. And we do have a calculator and a methodology for that. That's available on our YouTube channel. We also work in partnership for those that are very large organizations with complex carbon footprints. We partner with Smart Carbon, and now the platform has the functionality to account for home working emissions as well. So whoever asked that question, I'm happy to have a further conversation with you as to what would work best for your organization to more robustly account for the shift to home working. And then Camilla's asked, what does Georgina think about apps like iiE or PawPrint? So from the personal perspective, it's certainly something that I push when I'm doing my environmental awareness training, is for individuals to do their own personal carbon footprint, do something that's quite user-friendly and interactive. What do you think about that, Georgina?
In terms of a personal carbon footprint?
Yeah, and recommending and how I think iiE as well looks at personal sort of consumer-based sort of purchasing decisions and things where you can use the app to scan products and
definitely. So there's more and more coming through. iiE, I think, is a brilliant one, and we use iiE actually as a team. So we have a Pebble team on there, which isn't just our staff. It came out of a festival we ran last year, and I think we've got about 60 or 80 people on there. And yeah, you can start to rank all of your sort of small micro actions, from, you know, putting less water in the kettle to putting lids on your saucepans, or, you know, not choosing to use the car. And it starts to rank all of that carbon saved. And they're doing, I think, again, they've got a program which is cut a ton in 21, and that's what we've been focusing on. So getting everybody to cut a ton of carbon personally as part of the race to zero. So I definitely recommend that, using it as a team, and it's quite a fun way to get people thinking about their home working as well. So there's definitely that one. And then there are other carbon calculators, but they tend to be based around the old model of like flying and commuting to work. So those need to catch up a bit as well, I think. But yeah, iiE is definitely an easy one.
Lovely, that's fantastic. Thank you for everybody that's put a question in, and thank you, Georgina, for your inspiration And I do recommend people check out Pebble. The online community, I think, is a really important way to sort of get ideas, meet people who are of like mind, and share challenges that you can kind of find solutions for to deliver in your work and in your home. So thank you so much, Georgina. Really appreciate your insights and inspiration today.
Thank you for having me. I've super enjoyed it, and good luck to everybody.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on now to the iiE Awards sort of portion. So where are we now in terms of what have our members achieved? Now, everybody in the membership would know that Investors in the Environment runs an annual audit cycle. And this runs from October to October now for this award period. So what we're looking at in terms of data collection are the data that we've been able to access through the audit cycle. So these are members that have been audited during this period. With over 100 more members whose data and performance improvements aren't yet counted, but are still working towards reducing their impact, these figures could be even higher. And the stories are also worth telling if only we knew what they all were. But over this last year, despite the pandemic and also some co-benefits in terms of some carbon reduction as well, our members have saved 10,858 tons of carbon. Again, this is from audited data from energy, travel, waste, and other factors that have greenhouse gas emissions like refrigerants and others that are emitted on site. So it's a phenomenal achievement from across the membership that has been audited. Our members have also saved enough fuel to drive around the planet 16 times, which is absolutely amazing. This is fuel and mileage as well that has been converted to fuel. Our members have saved over 1,000 trees just in what's been reduced from paper. So the pandemic certainly helped some on this journey, but others were still quite paper heavy and needing to produce paper. So they found some other efficiencies that enabled that reduction. And our members have saved enough water to fill almost 30 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Now, if you watched our Water Use of the Future webinar yesterday, you have learned about the absolute importance that water has and the water cycle has on biodiversity, well-being, and others, and that we're in a water crisis here in the UK and globally. So water saving, although water is cheap, it's often not looked at properly as a resource worth targeting for reduction. So well done for all of our members that have made these achievements and contributed to this movement of fantastic impact. So what's next for Investors in the Environment? We're always innovating. We're always trying to improve what we offer and how we work with our members through our guidance to help you make the improvements that are needed to help have the impact to address the climate crisis and prevent environmental harm. So we've increased our focus on carbon a couple of years ago, where all members are now measuring their carbon footprint. We're really working hard to increase the carbon literacy of our member businesses now, with all levels having that basic carbon footprint and more as they go up the levels. There's also a stronger focus on how members are using resources, how to be efficient, how to change ways of working and eliminate waste, and also invest in green technology where that's possible. There's a focus and a continued focus on engagement, clearly with Georgina's talk here today, as well as others that have come on in the past year through our webinar series to help you understand why it's important to act on these critical areas. So through events like these and other campaigns that we invest in for our members and run, do take advantage of those. They're always available through your members pack and through the support we provide. We've also just invested in our website, so we'll soon be at a beta trial stage for members to use our new platform to help you progress through the journey, especially those that are early on in the journey that need help, a little bit more intensive help. You'll be able to more easily tap into our resources and better share your achievements through an all-new members green directory. So here you can see your green directory profile will soon show your years of membership, years of accreditation, any special awards that you've won now and in the past, as well as a further opportunity to talk about your green journey and what it has meant for you. You can see a snapshot of this here. So now we're going to recognize the amazing businesses that have gained the iiE accreditation over the last year. I hope you'll join me in celebrating their achievement. You can access the full list of winners along with articles and content on the awards in the brochure, which is found on our website and available as a download and in digital format to read through. So the iiE Awards 2021 winners, this week we've announced a number of winners each day through our webinar series. Our first winner was the winner of the Sustainable Transport Champion Award, which went to Vitoquinol. For this award, we were looking for a business who was investing in sustainable transport and really went with this year's theme about electrifying transport. Judges examined Vitoquinol's car policy, their communication, and analysis of performance on travel. Judges were pleased with the range of initiatives that were taking place and the transition to the predominantly electric fleet and the ongoing changes to their existing lease schemes. So they had a lot of proactive support for staff through their green team to help them choose the best sustainable transport option, as well as investment in infrastructure to support those changes. Perkins Engines was the winner of our best carbon reduction on Monday. Perkins has done some really fantastic things across the board, and their carbon reduction really stood out this year. The judges were impressed with the scale and investment of their solar farm in particular. The wider biodiversity and habitat improvements were also really noteworthy, as well as using a redundant piece of land for conservation purposes. So biodiversity and carbon often go together, as well as other environmental aspects. Judges also liked their onward ambition to increase sustainable energy production and to contribute to on-site renewables to reduce their resilience on the grid. So congratulations again to Perkins. Our winner for the Natural Environment Champion went to Davies Veterinary Specialists. The judges were well impressed with the breadth and range of initiatives that they had undertaken. From all of these various things, an on-site bird watch, wildflower meadow creation, at-home DIY how-to for wildlife, even having a wildlife area with a camera trap on site, which is available for people to look at any point, staff litter picks, and a tree planting initiative for bereaved pet owners. So really some quite impressive and inspiring things that so many organizations could potentially do, especially those that have a bit of a more rural location. The winner of our Best Water Reduction Award went to Cambridge and Counties Bank. Judges were impressed by their leadership and how they approached their office refurbishment project. There was robust planning that led to the inclusion of water-saving systems that resulted in halving on more than half of their water consumption. They really looked at their building. They looked at areas that typically use quite a lot of water, their toilets, their urinals, kitchens, and put in the right sort of technology to make sure that they were as water efficient as possible. So congratulations on that award to Cambridge and Counties Bank. And then yesterday it was announced that the University of Northampton won the award for Best Waste Reduction. This year has been a very tough year for waste. If you'll recall Anne Woolridge's talk for us on the future of waste yesterday, the pandemic has meant that billions and billions and billions of pieces of PPE for one, as well as all the other testing and single-use plastic that we've needed to weather this pandemic, have sort of set us back a bit. But the University of Northampton have done some really fantastic things, focusing on the things that they can do something about. And one of those being coffee cup recycling, which has the co-benefit of creating high awareness and engagement levels. The judges were impressed with the scale of recycling in general at the university, and the coffee cup recycling scheme in particular, which diverted over 60,000 coffee cups to be recycled. They also felt and noted that the university was in a key position to help influence a wide range of stakeholders and partners, as well as students, through the waste reduction schemes, and they should be applauded for their efforts. Now, going on to the winners of the Bronze Awards, we've had such a growth. We've increased our membership by 40% over the last year and a bit. We used to read off our members all individually. So I'm going to talk through what our members have actually done to achieve this and show you their logos. So all of these members over the last 12 months have received their bronze level accreditation. To get a bronze level award, you need to take your first steps in environmental management. You have to effectively monitor at least 4 resources, start to set a baseline, understand your environmental performance, recruit a green group, communicate your progress internally and hopefully externally as well, and also get started with tackling your carbon footprint and understanding what that means for you. So from small organizations to complex multi-site organizations, these companies, councils, and businesses have all set a baseline and have made a measurable commitment to reducing their impact. So congratulations again to all of our bronze level award members. The winner of the silver award for 2021, these businesses have all achieved basic bronze criteria and then leveled up in terms of widening out what they needed to include within their environmental management system. So these businesses have achieved all of those criteria. They've put in place travel plans, started to tackle their transport emissions, perhaps. They have good analysis in place. They've demonstrated reductions across at least 5 resource areas. They've taken on at least 2 environmental or social projects to contribute to their communities. And many businesses at this level are also actively looking at making improvements to their procurement process. So congratulations to all of our silver level members this year. And the winners of our Green Award for 2021 have done everything that you need to achieve bronze and silver, but are really looking at performance achievement in terms of target achievement. They're effectively monitoring and reducing at least 6 resources, not including carbon footprint. Where possible, they're proving at least a 2% or more reduction on all the resources that they're measuring. They have effective waste management systems and strategies in place, effective travel plans and policies, and have carried out their carbon footprint, direct footprint, as well as many of them, their scope 3 impacts, which are sort of the harder to tackle aspects of the organization. Plus, they've got 3 or more projects of significance that they've undertaken, from volunteering, from tree planting to carbon offsetting and neutrality, to training staff robustly on climate change and general environmental awareness. Congratulations to all of our green level members. This is our highest award through the actual accreditation and audit cycle. And to achieve and retain green level, it has to be maintained sort of year on year. So well done to all of our Green Award members. So to find out some more about how these businesses are improving their environmental and social impact, check out our robust bank of case studies on the iiE website. We've got lots of information there that goes into how some of these members have done it, whether it's looking at how they've achieved their silver award or their green or their bronze in general environmental management, or if they've done or used a particular piece of a technology to tackle an area of their business that they may have been focusing on in particular. So lots of really good stuff there, and we will be inviting all of our special award winners this year to produce case studies to share with our members and everyone else how they've made those achievements. And finally, I will come to our last 3 awards. The overall Achiever Awards are actually given to members that achieve a green level award, so that last slide that you saw, plus score in the top 10% of audited members for the year. They bring in new innovation and engagement into their ways of working. We give 2 awards for the overall Outstanding Achiever, 1 for a large business and 1 for a small business or an SME, taking into account impact and engagement on both counts. Thank you to Roy Thorne Solicitors for sponsoring this award. We've actually got Mark Dodds with us today, joining to present the award. Mark, if you'd like to say a few words as to why Roy Thorne's feel it's important to sponsor and hold up businesses like this for the overall Outstanding Achiever, that'd be great.
Yes, certainly. Thank you, April, and thank you, Georgina, for a great presentation. I think it is lots of great messages, and one stuck out for me was we should all be sitting in woods rather than being forced to play laser tag with our colleagues. You know, I've been saying that for years.
It looks like you're sitting in the woods, actually.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, where else could I be? So, you know, we're delighted that we can be involved in these awards. You know, there's been some great examples of businesses and individuals making real differences, and that's what it's about. As a firm, we've been involved with Investors in Environment for a number of years, and we've recently set our ambitious target to be one of the UK's greenest law firms. So we'll certainly be shouting about that and communicating it to our clients and through our staff and to the wider world, because it is about telling people what you've done. So we're on an exciting journey, and I'm sure that the winner of this award is also on that journey, as is everybody on this call. So without further ado, I'm delighted to announce that the winner for the overall outstanding achiever for a large organisation goes to City of Lincoln Council. Brilliant example. Judges were impressed with the scope of change and significant reduction in carbon. Lincoln showed real ambition, and through their practices and help to highlight the importance of the climate emergency, along with influencing wider stakeholders and partners. Whilst COVID had played a role, the Council have achieved 11 out of 12 targets, with an overall reduction of 12% carbon. The Council have also set the ambitious target of achieving net zero by 2030 for the City of Lincoln. And to support this, the Council developed a robust and well-managed action plan with key projects to conduct research and investigation into core building projects and public engagement. And what really stood out was a desire from senior management at all levels to push forward this ambition. And this has led to an integrated approach where all their departments across the Council are involved at various stages to remove any siloed operation and to ensure the Council as a whole are working together to understand the impact and put forward good action and public engagement, plan investment and activities to achieve their target by 2030. So many congratulations to City of Lincoln Council on winning this great award. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you to Roy Thorns for sponsoring this important award for our membership. Yeah, well done to City of Lincoln Council. Huge congratulations. It's a phenomenal achievement, and it's been a real pleasure to see this journey and a real inspiration. So Mark, if you want to come off camera, if I could please invite James from Ecotricity to join us. This is the second overall Outstanding Achiever Award, which will go to an SME or small and medium-sized enterprise. SMEs face their own unique challenges, but nevertheless, we have some really great efforts on the part of iiE member SMEs. Again, this business has achieved the Green Level Award, plus scored in the top 10% of audited members for the year, and they bring in innovation and engagement. So thank you to our sponsor for this award, Ecotricity, Britain's greenest energy company, and thank you to James for joining us to present this award.
Good morning, April. Yeah, some really fascinating stuff talked about so far. So great to be taking part in this. Ecotricity, we like to do things a little bit differently. One of our founding principles is that we're not business people doing the environment, but we're environmentalists doing business. The time for business, speaking of which, as usual, is over. The time for action is now. So we're really proud to be supporting an award for the overall Outstanding Achiever in recognition of a company that is not just carrying on business as usual and is stepping up and doing their bit to try and address the climate crisis. The winner for overall Outstanding Achiever SME Award goes to Ecology Building Society. So judges were impressed with the detailed work undertaken by EBS and the way that they've engaged with their staff on the important issues of climate change, even through the pandemic. The judges really like the support EBS has shown to staff on how to cut their energy while working from home and the inclusion of this within their carbon reporting. As a result, 5 tons of CO2 arising from home working were added onto the carbon footprint for Ecology in 2020. This has spurred management to engage with colleagues on how to save energy at home. Ecology have also installed 6 more electric vehicle charging points, in their car park, making a total of 8 where colleagues and visitors can charge their EVs for free.
Amazing. Thank you, James, for joining us to present that award, and huge congratulations to Ecology Building Society. So inspiring to see what you've done, how you've looked at things in terms of accounting for your home working emissions, which has been a real key topic of today's session as well. So congratulations. Now, James, you can go ahead and pop your camera off if that's okay. Thank you so much. Okay, so our Sustainability Influencer Award is our last award for the day. Many thanks goes to this category's sponsor, GES, for their support to make this event possible. In addition to sponsoring this award, GES have said that sustainability is at the heart of GES and what they do. Green Energy Switched are a profit-for-purpose company with all profits going to PEC to help fund some of our amazing projects. This is a proud moment for the Green Energy Switch team to sponsor such an important award in such a crucial time for the environment and spreading the word that action is needed right now. For this award, judges were looking for how the business influenced and changed behaviors within their organization, as well as practices of other organizations, projects they undertook to change a process or practice, and successful environmental campaigns. The winner needed to show how they have changed behaviors of other people or organizations to inspire change beyond their direct business activities. I'm really delighted to announce that the winner of the Sustainability Influencer Award 2021 goes to Linnaeus Group. Congratulations to Linnaeus. Judges were really impressed with the wide-ranging dedication to sustainability shown by Linnaeus, from their phase out of nitrous oxide, a potent greenhouse gas, through their CPD campaign, No Need for Nitrous, and Pause to Turn Off campaign to get people to switch things off, and many, many other campaigns that they have run across the last year and a bit, and the power of influence through their network and associates across the board, their ambition, including mentoring and setting a best practice through events and journalistic publications from their associates as well. They are supporting the sustainability agenda across a wide range of programs and are at the forefront of sustainability within the veterinary sector. A huge congratulations to Linnaeus. Thank you again to our sponsor, GES. And this brings us to the end of the iiE Awards for 2021, where I will leave you with a challenge. Ahead of the United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP26 in Glasgow in just a few weeks' time, the UK government is now calling upon large and even small businesses now to join the growing corporate movement to fight climate change. Time is now. So with all eyes on the UK to agree to the most ambitious targets yet, everyone has a place to play in the climate emergency. So as part of the wider Together for Our Planet campaign, a race to zero, the UK business leaders can take action by committing to net zero emissions targets. iiE requires members to work toward and achieve a minimum of a 2% annual reduction in your carbon footprint. Can you go further? What can you do? What inspiration can you take from today and from the week's talks to engage your staff, perhaps do something in your personal life, or use your superpower to make a difference? So you can find out more information about that. We have an article within the brochure, which you can download, as I mentioned, on our website directly. Find out more about the Race to Zero campaign as well. So do download that awards brochure, as it does list all of our awardees as well. It has some fantastic articles ranging from more information about the Race to Zero to circular economy, and more information about our sponsors for these events and what you can do really to bring in a greener future. So thank you to everybody for your time today. Thank you to our members. Thank you to Georgina for her fantastic and inspiring talk. And we continue to be inspired on a daily basis by our membership. We know it can be difficult, it can be hard, but we've seen some people really overcoming some of these challenges and showing how it can be done. Thank you again to our award sponsors for today. GES, the EGL Group, Cool Food Pro, Roy Thorne Solicitors, Ecotricity, Blueprint to a Circular Economy, Compare the Market, and Davies Veterinary Specialists. These sponsors make our awards free to enter and attend. Thank you all, and remember to visit our website, iie.uk.com, for more information about membership and further inspiration about what you can do next.